This one Yellowstone scene convinced me Rip was the show's most likable Dutton character. One Yellowstone scene convinced me Rip Kohlhauser is the most likable Dutton character despite not being born into the family. The ranch foreman appears in Yellowstone Season 1, Episode 1, and evolves into one of the most essential characters in the franchise by the Yellowstone Season 5 finale. While John Dutton, i.e., Kevin Costner, and Kelly Riley's Beth are outstanding characters in the franchise and comprise the other most likable Duttons in Yellowstone, Rip has qualities that make him even more amiable than his two closest contacts. While a history of violence surrounds Rip's pursuit to protect the ranch for John Dutton, the character evolves beyond a violence-centered existence as his sweetheart, Beth, returns to the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch to help her father protect it. Rip Wheeler's best moments are arguably alongside John Dutton's daughter, who has a mean streak but brings out the best of the ranch foreman. Yellowstone audiences also have an informed understanding of Rip's place on the ranch due to flashbacks to his adolescence, which enhance the character's likable qualities. Beth and Rip have dozens of fantastic scenes throughout Yellowstone's 5 seasons, but one cements Rip as the most likable Dutton in my mind. In Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 5, Watch Em Ride Away, Rip has an encounter with Beth that makes him virtually impossible not to like. As Rip fiddles with horse riding gear in the barn, Beth asks why. Rip tells her he's getting Carter, Finn Little, ready to ride up the mountain for the spring gather, where Rip and the other cowboys will camp as they round up cattle to receive the Yellowstone Ranch brand. When she finds out that her father is attending, Beth asks Rip, "Well, can you outfit me too?" Initially, Rip is surprised, reminding Beth that there are no tents or bedrolls, and everyone will sleep on the ground. When Beth starts to feel rejected after Rip doesn't meet her request, saying that she will fly to Vegas and get a suite at the Wynn, Rip humorously pleads for his wife to come. It endeared Rip to me that he could be so kind to Beth in the face of her scorn, whether she deserved the kindness or not. Yellowstone Season 5 scene proves Hauser's character has evolved into the most likable Dutton. Rip's partnership with Beth brings out some of his best qualities. Another memorable scene for Rip that allowed me to appreciate him more deeply is when Beth informed Rip in Yellowstone Season 2 that John was giving him a house, calling him a son, after Beth told her father she needed to treat the ranch foreman with more dignity. Beth reads Rip a letter in which John Dutton calls Rip his kin, proving the Dutton patriarch considered Rip one of his own. Even if John didn't consider Rip a son, a title the ranch foreman certainly has earned, Beth and Rip officiated the foreman's place in the family in the Yellowstone Season 4 finale. Beth kidnapped a priest to tie the knot between her and Rip, making for one of Beth's best Yellowstone moments. The development meant that Rip was officially a Dutton despite his complicated legal history, which generally keeps him off the books. All that said, Rip deserves to be considered an official family member, as he is just as Dutton as the rest of the Yellowstone clan. I'll admit, when I first started watching Yellowstone, I wasn't entirely sold on Rip Wheeler. Sure, he was rugged and loyal, but his brutal approach to solving problems made me question whether he was truly likable. That all changed, however, with one particular scene, one that convinced me Rip was the most likable Dutton character on the show. It wasn't one of his high-octane moments, where he was throwing punches or settling scores with his fists. It wasn't even a scene where he showed his deep loyalty to John Dutton. No, the scene that solidified Rip as the heart of Yellowstone was the moment he shared a tender, vulnerable interaction with Carter, the troubled boy he took under his wing. The moment was simple. Carter, still new to the ranch, had just gotten himself into trouble again. The kid had a knack for making mistakes, and Rip, being the hardened cowboy he was, didn't have the patience for nonsense. But instead of lashing out, instead of giving him the boot, Rip did something unexpected. He talked to him like a father would. He lowered his voice, dropped the intimidation, and gave Carter a lesson in life that only a man like Rip could teach. "Life's gonna be tough, kid," Rip told him. "And the only way you make it is by owning up to your mistakes, not making excuses." It wasn't just what Rip said, it was how he said it. He wasn't cruel, wasn't condescending. He wasn't the enforcer of the Dutton Ranch in that moment. He was something much more valuable, a mentor. And in that moment, Rip became the most likable character on the show. Rip's evolution, from enforcer to father figure. Rip Wheeler has always been John Dutton's right-hand man, a role that required him to be ruthless, sometimes even merciless. For much of the series, his job is to take care of problems in ways that wouldn't exactly be considered legal. He's the guy you don't want to cross, the one who buries bodies out by the train station when necessary. And yet, deep down, there's always been more to Rip than just the muscle. His relationship with Beth Dutton was the first hint that he had a softer side. His love for her was unwavering, even when she pushed him away, even when she tested him in every way possible. But the moment with Carter showed something even deeper. Rip wasn't just capable of love, he was capable of being a role model. When Rip first met Carter, he was reluctant to take on any kind of fatherly role. He saw the kid as trouble, a liability. But over time, something shifted. He recognized something in Carter that reminded him of himself, an orphan, a lost soul who needed guidance. Instead of walking away, Rip did what no one else had ever done for him. He gave the boy a chance. Why Rip stands out among the Duttons. Compared to the other Duttons, Rip's likability stands out because he's one of the few characters who remains genuinely loyal without hidden agendas. John Dutton loves his family, but his love is often conditional, based on their ability to serve the ranch. Beth is fiercely protective, but she's also volatile and vindictive. Case is torn between two worlds, never quite sure where he belongs. Jamie, well, Jamie is Jamie. Rip, however, has never wavered. He is the one constant, the one character whose motives are never selfish. He doesn't seek power, he doesn't crave wealth, he just wants to protect what he loves. And that's why his moment with Carter was so powerful. It was proof that Rip wasn't just a Dutton enforcer. He was the beating heart of the ranch. The power of redemption. Another reason this scene resonated so deeply is that it wasn't just about Carter's redemption, it was about Rip's too. Rip has spent most of his life believing that he wasn't worthy of anything beyond the life John Dutton gave him. He saw himself as a man who solved problems, not as someone who could offer wisdom or guidance. But in teaching Carter, Rip proved something to himself. He could be more than he ever believed he could be. There's something inherently likable about a character who doesn't see himself as a hero, but acts like one anyway. Rip doesn't see himself as a good man, but his actions, especially in moments like these, prove otherwise. He didn't have to take Carter under his wing. He didn't have to show patience or kindness or offer words of wisdom. But he did, and that's what made the scene so impactful. The scene that defined Rip's legacy. Looking back on Yellowstone, there are plenty of moments that define Rip Wheeler as a character. His proposal to Beth, his brutal takedowns of those who threatened the ranch, his quiet conversations with John Dutton that revealed just how deep their bond truly is. But for me, no moment defined Rip's legacy more than his exchange with Carter. It was the moment that proved Rip wasn't just a man of action, he was a man of heart. It was the moment that showed he wasn't just capable of violence, he was capable of kindness. And ultimately, it was the moment that convinced me Rip was the most likable Dutton character of them all.